The filibuster nuclear option seems to have gone out of option at this moment in the U.S. Senate.
Two NBA players, Yao Ming and Ernest Cantor Freedom, exchanged pointed words on human rights issue on world stage.
Inflation in the U.S. and jobless in China, both countries are racing to the bottom. Do you believe it? And do you know why this is happening? Welcome to Wei and Kathy Show. I'm your host, Wei Fang.
And I'm Kathy Zhang.
Thank you for being with us. So we're a few minutes late, but we have important news and for you to know about. So at this moment, actually, it was quite tense in the floor of the Senate, all right? Without mentioning this too much, the entire nation has been holding breath, silently, not too much talk. Over what? Over whether the Democrat senators would use the so-called nuclear option to do away with the 60-vote filibuster threshold. Both parties have 50 votes in the Senate, with the vice president's one vote to break the tie and get the nuclear option activated. In other words, not a single Democrat vote can be missed, and the stake is too high for both parties. And if the filibuster is weakened from 60 votes to simple majority, as wished by the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat Party will pass a series of radical liberal acts. And while the GOP would do the same when they got their turn next time. And the Washington, D.C. will turn itself into virtually a ping-pong table. Well, fortunately enough, two Democratic senators don't like that sports too much. And last Thursday, as we know, in the morning of last Thursday, the Democrat-controlled House of Representatives passed a bill, and combining both of the original pieces of election legislation, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the Freedom to Vote Act, the former House Resolution number 1. Okay, all prep work was done for invoking the nuclear option in the Senate and get this act through the Senate and make that into the law. However, later in the day, Senator Sinema from Arizona doubled down on her intention of staying away from the nuclear option. She said there's no need for me to restate my long-standing support for the 60-vote threshold to pass legislation. There's no need for me to restate its role in protecting our country from wild reversals of federal policy. And Senator Sinema also said some have given up on the goal of erasing our divisions and uniting Americans. I have not. I have worked hard to demonstrate in my public service the value of working with the unlikely allies to get results. Another senator, Senator Joe Manchin from the Western Virginia today, declared that he won't be supporting using the nuclear option. He said, allowing one party to exert complete control in the Senate with only a simple majority will only pour fuel on the fire of political whiplash and the dysfunction that is tearing this country apart. And Senator Manchin said, contrary to what some have said, protecting the role of the minority, Democrat or Republican, has protected us from the volatile political swings that we have endured over the last 233 years, entire history of the nation. And Manchin also said eliminating the filibuster would be easy way out. Okay, basically, it's pretty firm statement by both senators. Okay, so at this very moment, the Senate is activating the nuclear option. Okay, result of which is which will come out from a vote, would be more than consequential. So, however, with such a position by the two senators, the nation can probably assume there won't be the Freedom to Vote Act as well as any Green New Deal Act or a comeback version of the Build Back Better. What do you think? Relieved or upset? As a matter of fact, Kathy, we learned that there are liberals and conservatives and independents all here among our audience, right?
Yeah, which is really great.
Yeah, we have recently learned about that and we're very happy about that. Okay, and I hope you can discover that Wei and Kathy show can actually be for everyone. We do hold clear positions, that's true, but we're open to different opinion and a different point of view. And we hope that this show will become a place that we explore and find the truth together. And the chances are, in my firm belief, if we have enough debate, enough exchange of ideas, we could largely lead to the same conclusion. But we'll see. All right, so Kathy brought you another it's basically international drama, okay? So it has to do with NBA, not play balls, but to play other things. Kathy.
Yeah. Okay, so first of all, actually, I have this question for you, okay, for all you guys, okay? Who's taller, Yao Ming or Ernest Cantor Freedom?
Can I guess? Actually,
yeah, take a guess.
Kathy didn't ask this question to me. I think for sure it's Yao Ming, because Yao Ming is the Chinese players who went to Houston Rocket, right? Mm-hmm. And this guy went there because he's very, very tall.
Yeah.
May I say very, very, very tall?
Okay.
Over 2 meters,
Okay, I have to give you the prize. Okay, wait, you are correct.
Okay.
Okay, on the height, okay, Yao Ming is much taller than Cantor Freedom. Okay, so one is 7'8", the other is 6'10".
Really? Only 7'8"?
Right.
Okay.
Only 7'8", but he's much taller than.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought the Kent is only 6'10", right?
Yeah.
Yao Ming is 7'8".
Yes.
7'8" is very scarily tall.
Right. Okay. But now people are debating who's really taller in face of CCP.
That's an interesting question.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So let's hear about this story. The former Houston Rocket player Yao Ming, as you know, and now he is the president of the Chinese Basketball Association, all right? And he made a media appearance on Monday, January 17th, to promote the 2020 Beijing Winter Olympics. According to the government-run propaganda newspaper Global Times, Yao expressed his excitement for the Winter Olympics and rejected calls for boycotting the event, claiming that the United States is politicizing this event by diplomatic boycott. And Yao also invited, reportedly, in the Boston Celtics center, Ernest Cantor Freedom, to visit China. And why is that? So, Cantor Freedom, he is a Turkish-American player who has become the most vocal critic of the Chinese Communist dictatorship in the NBA and has called for a full international boycott of the 2022 Olympics. So, Yao Ming reportedly said of Cantor Freedom, he said, I'm not in a position to comment, but if there is an opportunity, I hope he, meaning Freedom, could come to China with me and the other basketball fans as his guide. And Yao said, seeing China for himself may help them know China in a more comprehensive way. So what he meant was that Ernest Cantor Freedom does not have a comprehensive way of understanding China. So at the event, Yao also addressed another Chinese human rights scandal in the sports, which is the case of Peng Shuai. So everybody already knows, Peng is a Wimbledon doubles champion who went missing in last November after she published a post on Weibo, which is the Chinese government censored social media outlet. She accused a former head of the Chinese Olympics Commission of raping her, who was the former vice premier of the State Council and a member of the CCP Politburo Standing Committee, which is the highest ruling council in China. So Chinese government rapidly deleted Peng's post, and Peng then disappeared from the public eye for weeks. She later resurfaced briefly in orchestrated videos spread through Chinese government media, including her video meeting with the International Olympics Committee chairman, President Thomas Bach, twice. But later she retracted her accusation and again disappeared. So Yao Ming claimed in the Monday event that he had met with Peng Shuai recently for Olympics promotion events, and he claimed that Peng Shuai was happy and healthy. So what the public knows was that actually it was 1 month ago in mid-December. Yao Ming was seen accompanying Peng Shuai, a few others, attending a ski competition event in Shanghai. So we also can see, some of the footage that so-called reporter from a Singapore, Chinese newspaper asking a lot of questions to Peng Shuai. So then about Yao Ming's invitation of Ernest Cantor Freedom to visit China. So how Cantor Freedom respond to Yao's invitation? First of all, he thanked Yao and accepted the invitation, but with a couple of notes. It's very interesting.
Just yesterday, I saw on the news that former NBA player Yao Ming invited me to China. I want to be very clear. I have nothing against Chinese people. My problem is with the cultish Chinese Communist Party and the brutal dictator Xi Jinping. Well, I want to say thank you for your kind offer. And yes, I accept your invite. I would like to come to China this summer and see everything with my own eyes.
Okay, so you notice that Yao Ming's invitation was not directly to Cantor Freedom, but through a media report.
Chinese media.
Chinese media report.
More precisely.
Right?
Through Chinese media. And you wonder why. Is he sincere? Somebody else report that thing and he does not bother taking the effort and just communicate it to...
It's not direct.
To Ernest directly, yeah.
Right,
okay.
and then Ernest Cantor Freedom responded, publicly through the Twitter. So his video was posted to Twitter. And then he went on to ask a few questions to Yao Ming about this trip.
But on this trip, will we be able to visit the Uyghur slave labor camps? Or visit the innocent women being tortured, raped, and abused? Will we get to see how the regime destroys bodies after harvesting their organs so there is no evidence? Or will you show me propaganda only?
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah, so he really pointed out the few very typical examples of the human rights violation in China. And then he further asked if they could swing by Tibet, Hong Kong, and Taiwan in this trip.
Let's show the world how Chinese Communist Party is erasing Tibetan identity, religion, and culture. On this trip, can we please visit Hong Kong together? Hong Kong used to be one of the freest cities in the world. Yet now, the destruction of free press, crackdowns on rights, and more arrests are happening each and every day. On this trip, can we please visit Taiwan together so you can see how democracy is thriving, even as they worry that China may invade any day? Let's look at the happy faces of the Taiwanese people as you tell them how the regime you support wants to kill them if they do not want to be a part of China.
And then Cantor Freeman also especially requested to meet with Peng Shuai.
While I'm in China, will I get to see the tennis player Peng Shuai? Will I be able to speak directly with her to ask her if she is safe and okay? And will she be able to freely respond? I will come visit China when you agree to do what I mentioned.
And lastly, he called out to Yao Ming and the CCP. Take a listen.
Listen, Yao Ming. You or your Communist Party cannot buy me. I do not need a luxury tour of China. I want the world to see the real side of China under cultish Chinese Communist Party's brutal rule. slave labor camps, and millions living in fear because of surveillance. You simply cannot escape. Please let me know. And I will buy my own ticket and I will be there with the first flight to China this summer. Thank you.
What do you think?
Yeah, offer accepted. So since Mr. Freedom accepted the offer, that spelled the start of the trouble for Yao Ming and the CCP. Let me put my commentator hat. I really should have that hat with me, and thank you. One of you gave that to me, and when he accepted, yes, I'm coming, but with such condition. First, let me share with you my reading of it. First, Mr. Freedom clearly know how to deal with them. Okay, so he said all the right thing, and the second, his position is very, is very powerful. Okay, it's very public, very open, and very powerful, saying that accept it, I'm coming. Can you receive me in the way that I just laid out? Just take note, Kathy.
Mm-hmm.
So when Yao Ming was said his expressed his invitation expressed by the Chinese Communist Party's media, he said, "I and my fans, your fans, will be guiding you."
Right.
He said that intentionally. Okay, why did he say that? Why didn't he say that? Welcome here. I'm gonna go around with you and find out the truth. You're gonna learn the comprehensive way what China is. He said, "I and your fans will be guiding you." Okay, in the communist term, it's called a guided tour. It's not a red rabbit tour. Okay, it's a guided tour. You only go where they want you to see. So after that, if you are stupid enough, you just take it all, suck it all in, and you become a dummy that they want you to be. So
they just want you to see what they want you to see, and also they could just do something that trick people in. Because we have reported on so many incidents that the U.S. officials, including one in San Francisco, he's collapsed right now. It's a politician. We won't name his name, but he went to visit China for on different trips, and then he was. Right, he was. Basically they gave him women, and then took the video, and then he had this, this thing in Chinese Communist Party's hand,
Yeah.
and then he had to just listen to them.
So actually, in my opinion and observation, and out of my knowledge, okay, Yao Ming is not necessarily the party. Okay, he was probably used by the party. So in his statement, he doesn't have to say so, but he did. He said your fan will be guiding you. So he's paving to what could be happening because, Mr. Freedom could accept it. So he said at that time, it's gonna be the guided tour. I said so, and so on and so forth. But anyway. Publicly, Yao Ming expressed his invitation, and publicly, Mr. Freedom accepted his invitation. And then now, the most interesting news starting here. How would Yao Ming respond? Okay.
Well, let's wait and see.
Right.
Yeah, what's his response to that? And the one thing I just cannot help pointing out, the one note that Yao Ming attached to his invitation is that then Mr. Freedom would be able to have a more comprehensive understanding of China. Meaning right now, Mr. Freedom's view of China is biased. Right? That's what he meant.
Yeah.
So that's the rhetoric of the Chinese Communist Party governments, how they describe people who criticize of their regime and the control and the human rights abuse. So then, I think a lot of people, people who support Mr. Freedom, who support human rights in China, would pretty be amazed, like why Ernest Cantor Freedom is so much into China's human rights issue, right? So last year on November 30th, when he was naturalized as a U.S. citizen, Cantor changed his last name to Freedom. Why? Because he said that then he will be able to carry freedom, right? Carry it wherever he goes.
Carry that word.
Yeah, so he has been known very critical about the Turkish human rights issue, the government regime, right? And that's the country where he came from. And he said that the Turkish authorities tried to kidnap him, forced his family to publicly disown him, and tortured his father in detention, and eventually revoked his passport, stripping him of his home and his identity. But last year, he started to call for the defense of the human rights of China's oppressed, the CCP's oppressed. And he even launched a campaign in which he wears custom shoes dedicated to honor Tibetans, Hong Kongers, Uyghurs, and others facing genocidal state repression in China. So on the day when he became the US citizen, he revealed the reason behind it.
I was doing a basketball camp, and I was taking pictures with the kids, and I took a picture with this kid, and his parents turned around and said, "How can you call yourself a human rights activist when you only talk about Turkey, And when your brothers and sisters in China, Uyghurs, are getting killed and tortured and raped every day?" And I was ashamed. I turned around to a parent and said, I promise you that I'm going to study and get back to you. And the more I study, the more I see all the violations that happen, especially in China. And you see, obviously, if it's China's involved, there's so many actors, athletes, rappers, or singers, or celebrities are scared because obviously whatever they talk about is going to affect their business and endorsement deals and contracts and stuff. To me, I don't care about any of that stuff. To me, morals, principles, and values is way more important than any endorsement deals that they can offer me. So.
Okay, so yeah.
Probably, so the voice is a little low.
Okay, maybe I just kind of restate. Yeah, explain a little bit. So basically, when he was asked why he, really cares about broader human rights, especially in China, he said that he had experience, personal experience when he attended a basketball camp. He had pictures with a kid and his parents. So the parents had this question to him, very direct question, straightforwardly asked him, you only care about the Turkish human rights. How can you call yourself a human rights activist? So Cantor Freedom said that at that time he was really ashamed of himself, but he responded, "I will do more research." And the parents also asked him, why don't you care about your brothers and sisters in Uyghur, right, who's under suppression of CCP? And he responded, "I will study it and then get back to you." So he said that once he studied the situation and he realized, how cruel such repression is, and then he also noticed that a lot of those celebrities, so-called celebrities, athletes, the actors, the Hollywood celebrities, they all just shut their mouth against in facing the human rights in China, because it's gonna affect their business if they speak up. But he said, "I don't care about those." He said, to him, the principles, the values, the moral values are more important. And that's why he decided to speak up against the CCP's human rights abuse. So in his opinion piece published on Time magazine last month, Cantor Freedom said, besides other human rights violations, he said, the Chinese regime jailed its critics and forcibly disappeared those truth tellers who tried to shed light on COVID-19 when it first broke out. He said, that's why I use my platform to speak out and to offer my unique perspective on the immeasurable value and the responsibility that comes with our many freedom here. And on another op-ed on the Boston Globe, Cantor Freedom reflected his a longer journey to reclaim his freedom as an American citizen. He said he doubled down on his advocacy, using every opportunity to keep world attention on human rights. And he wrote, the journey to get here wasn't easy. The last time I spoke with my parents was in 2015. So he made a sacrifice because of his speaking up. And he said any contact with him would get their parents arrested. The Turkish authorities forced his family to publicly disown him, imprisoned his father on charges that he's a member of a terrorist organization, and revoked his passport, issued a 10 arrest warrant against Cantor Freedom in 4 years. And he thanked his teammates for their support, and he said that they become family after his own family was broken up. So when Tencent in China pulled Celtics games from streaming services in retaliation for his wearing shoes that call for freedom in Tibet, he said that his teammates were the first to express their unconditional support. And he said that the teammates encourage him to stand up for what's right and give voice to the innocent people, and always remind him that they have his back no matter what. So Cantor Freedom said that they are my number one source of motivation and hope. So I think, by hearing that, we can also see other NBA members, at least at the Boston Celtics, people are, they do value such principles and moral values. So, and Cantor Freedom called out for a full boycott on Beijing Olympics. He had questioned his peers, including LeBron James of Los Angeles Lakers, saying that his values are, quote, money over morality, end quote. And earlier this week, one of the owners of the Golden State Warrior, which is in San Francisco, and he publicly said, it's a long name, Chamath Palihapitiya. He stated that nobody cares what happened to Uyghurs in Xinjiang, China. I'm glad you do, but the rest of us don't. Although the Golden State Warrior later kind of, separated him, saying that doesn't represent the whole team. Cantor Freedom criticized this person, calling his comments on Xinjiang unbelievable. It's sad, it's disgusting, and he said, I'm definitely ashamed of him. So Cantor Freedom said the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, does not represent the Olympic core values of excellence, of respect, of friendship, and that they are a brutal dictatorship. He tweeted that the International Olympic Committee is in bed with the Chinese government. And he said that they are complicit and echoed the cultish Chinese Communist Party's propaganda. So in regards to that, actually, one of our Congress members responded to that. The Wisconsin Representative Mike Gallagher just yesterday, on Wednesday, introduced a bill to impose human rights sanctions on International Olympic Committee leadership. Gallagher introduced this bill called the Free Peng Shuai Act. It would impose global Magnitsky sanctions on the president and the other senior members of the IOC, deemed complicit in Chinese tennis star Peng Shuai's disappearance last year. So this bill comes as actually human rights group, which is Human Rights Watch, warned athletes not to criticize Chinese government during the Olympics, fearing that the IOC cannot provide any protection to them. So the Washington Post reported that Yang Shu, who is the Deputy Director General of International Relations for the Beijing Organizing Committee, saying that any behavior or speech that is against the Olympic spirit, especially against the Chinese laws and the regulations, are also subject to certain punishment. So Congressman Gallagher said in a statement, he said Peng Shuai's disappearance demonstrates the dangers facing the thousands of athletes who are about to travel to Beijing for the Olympics. He wrote, the IOC knows of this, but rather than standing up for athletes, it has chosen its own self-interest and become complicit in CCP's human rights abuse. And he said, boycotting the Olympics is not enough. It's time to sanction IOC President Thomas Bach and any other IOC officials who helped cover up Peng's disappearance. So, it's unknown to what extent the Democrats who control both houses of Congress would support this Peng Shuai Freedom Act. Previously, the two parties have shown a high degree of consistency in debating and passing a number of bills of human rights issues in China. So, let's wait and see what would be the response.
Yeah, actually, I personally, I think Mr. Mike Gallagher, right? Gallagher. He's really the vanguard because the Congress, our Congress, at the most, they just condemn or criticize the Chinese communist regime. Never did they try to, censor any Western VIPs and figures who side with or work with the Chinese Communist Party. And so I think, honestly speaking, it's not easy for this to pass, but the mere raising this resolution is a very powerful message. And for those of you, actually, I do encourage you, give your congressman or congresswoman a call, or write an email saying that ask them to respond and concur with the Congressman Gallagher. So I think that would be very powerful as this pick up steam. Eventually, when this vanguard type of person become a mainstream voice, it will teach a very, very good lesson to the Western VIPs or those public figures who chose to side with this CCP, which has been really aiding to them their atrocity over the last few decades. So, but it's just something that obviously makes sense, but it's still early for our Congress at this time, my judgment. Okay, maybe I could be wrong. Maybe this would pass before the Winter Olympics. If that happened, that would be tremendously powerful. But why don't we each of us just do a little bit on that? So Kathy, there's two issues here, right? Mm-hmm. On this matter, Chinese Communist government actually corner themselves on two matters. First, Peng Shuai. Okay, they got this Olympic, committee chairman to come out and president, right? Mm-hmm. To work with them and see Peng Shuai remotely and saying that I'm fine. Peng Shuai said I'm fine, I'm free, I'm safe. And he came back to tell the world, see, she's safe, she's fine, she's free. Australia Tennis Open is on at this time. Okay, January 17th through 30th. Ms. Peng Shuai should be there. She did not. She's not there.
Right.
So the world needs to ask Chinese government this question. If she's fine, she's safe, and she's free, she shall be in Australia. That's the first thing, right? Mm-hmm. The world is waiting for that answer. There's still a few days. The second is this, of course. Mr. Freedom said, I accept your offer. Can you just invite me? You said I see you wrong, and you want me to come and see. And then now I said, okay, but not as a guided tour. And we're all waiting for that answer from Yao Ming, right?
Right.
He's answering it or not answering it. I think it will be latter. Okay, will be both an answer. So we definitely will follow up with this issue and report to you what is the Yao Ming's answer or non-answer, and both will be news.
Yeah, and we have friends saying he wrote a comment saying Yao Ming means Ernst Cantor Freedom needs re-education tour.
And Benny, you wrote that. Where does Mr. Ming live? He live in China. Okay, at this time he live in China. Once if Peng Shuai really leaves China and show up in Australia, that will be, I would say, I won't say 100%, 70%. You would get the truth out of her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting, I think, in both occasions, right, when Peng Shuai appeared publicly in Shanghai last mid of December, Yao Ming was accompanying her.
Yeah.
Okay, we saw the video there, all right? And this time, in inviting Ernest Cantor Freedom, again, it's Yao Ming extending the invitation through Chinese media. So, really, and there are, people are saying, Yao Ming is really being used by the Chinese government as a tool even with the kind of risking his own reputation, because in China people are starting to questioning his relationship with Peng Shuai. Of course, it's all just a hearsay, right? But he's just just putting himself out for all these things.
Yeah, and the last point I want to bring forth is this. Remember, Mr. Freedom, Ernest Cantor Freedom, he's from Turkey, right? He's from Turkey. He came from oppressing regime, and he came over here. And then we also have great NBA player, just like LeBron James, who on this same matter, just in 2019, he clearly showed that. He said, we have freedom of speech, but that may get us into trouble. Let's just, not original word, let's shut up and don't offend
Chinese government.
Right? So you got also the owner of this Golden State Warrior, yeah? The people like this. So people actually, that person, I think he was from Sri Lanka, and he migrated to Canada when he was a 5-year-old. Later came to United States. So pretty much like an American-born or
American raised.
Canada-born and American-raised. So really, you can see that people like Mr. Freedom, people like Kathy and Wei, we came from those kind of environment. We are the people who mostly appreciate the United States of America. Okay, and we see the most clearly, as you see, he sees through that and say that right away. I don't want a guided tour. Let me go to where I want to go, and you give me an answer, right? So those answers, it's very hard to come from the mouth of LeBron James. Even LeBron James is not what he was in 2019 because he cannot say that. He doesn't understand the communist China.
Or he just doesn't want to say it.
Yeah, of course he doesn't. I shouldn't even use him as example. Okay, another great NBA player who has the good value, and he may not be able to see that. I want to go here and there. I don't need your guided tour. So that's the thing. I don't mean to say who's good or who's bad. What I mean to say that if you go through the communist and the socialism, you go through those kind of environment, you are immune. You know how to deal with them. And this is indeed, I think, what people like us needs to pass it on. It's like we are immune, but the knowledge needs to be passed on so that all American people would also acquire that kind of immunization.
Right. I think another inspiration I think people can draw from, at least for me, I can see why Mr. Cantor Freedom, he started to realize what's going on in China, which expanded his vision, right? His passion for human rights is because of the parents of a kid who attended a basketball camp. So people who understand, issues, if they are willing to speak out, if they are willing to share with people wherever they go, then, opportunity will rise, right? So because of these parents shared their opinion with Cantor Freedom, he was, it inspired him to research into the human rights abuse in China. Then he really became a vocal voice for the innocent people there. So I think this really tells something, and I hope it's also inspiring to you as well.
Yeah, at last, don't forget, just call your congressman or congresswoman. Just mention them the name of Mike Gallagher. Gallagher, yeah, Mike Gallagher from Wisconsin. Sorry.
Yes, Wisconsin. He's actually very young. He's under 40.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only 38 years old or something.
Yeah, Gallagher. Gallagher. See what's your congressional representative's response. And we think we really need to grow this kind of initiative, right? Turn that into a mainstay voice there.
Yeah,
okay.
Our friend here, I hate CCP, that's to CCP, I think his name is, he said Chamath, that the owner of Golden State Warrior, must have visited mainland China in luxury trips, guided a tour. We can look into that. It's very possible. And Larry said, we appreciate your voice of freedom. Thank you, Win and Kathy. Yeah, we thank you for being with us and spreading the word of our shows.
Yeah. All right, actually, I have another topic, but it's a little too late. We could bring this on tomorrow.
Right.
And so it has to do with both country, U.S. and China, racing to the bottom. You may not believe it, but I want to tell you what do we see the truth, which is the matter of fact. And what's more important is what's behind it. Okay, what's behind it? We got a lot of good stuff for you tomorrow. Chances are we're going to add another show tomorrow, right? And just stay tuned. All right. Thank you very much. And good night
Yeah.
until tomorrow.
Okay, take care.
Okay. Bye-bye. Take
Bye-bye.
care.